right here I've got a list of questions that were sent in by different people.
All right.
All of them are about disclosure and the most recent updates regarding this idea from the Pentagon as well.
All right.
So, if you're ready, I would like to ask the first question.
Go ahead.
Question 1. The Pentagon confirmed the reality of certain videos of unidentified flying objects, or what now are called unidentified aerial phenomena, over the past 12 months or so. One of these videos shows a triangular craft. You have said before that the YahYel used such crafts. So, was this the YahYel?
In this case, it was. Though we are not the only ones using these type of crafts, you will find that we ourselves, the YahYel and also the Sasani, are known, quote-unquote, to use these triangular ships. We are, as you know, from the same grey human lineage, and it is since around and about the, what you understand to be 1980s, that these ships begin to appear to more people in your version of reality, because it was by then that the hybridization program came to a, you could say, fulfillment, that the general layout, the aim of creating a certain amount of races resulting with us as the last and final, you could say, genetic step in the bridging from the grey future humans to yourselves. That bridge was then completed. Now, obviously, there have still been born. Children have still been born after that, and by that we mean hybrid children. We mean those that we refer to as the Shalanaya, or those who shall come first. And it wasn't a hard-cut ending to the hybridization program in that sense. There are still volunteers on your planet today, but the fundament of what was being aimed for had been completed. And from then on, we, in that sense, as hybrids, were given the invitation to interact with you more directly. And this is the time frame wherein, around and about, more of these particular type of ships begin to appear to more people on your planet.
So, this particular video it seemed to show a craft with flickering lights, much like a regular airplane, though there were no real rhythms to the blinking on and off. So, what was going on there?
All right. Well, to the one asking the question, they must have seen that little tiny segment of a video that captured this particular triangular craft, which, by the way, was not the only one in the sky at that moment. There were several. It is just that one was, well, let's just say, in a sense, and we mean that with a big wink, showing off. Trying to get, literally, the attention of the one who eventually decided to take the shot, to begin recording. The flickering in that sense isn't so much the idea of the flickering that you see on your own aircraft, with the steady pattern in the lightning going on and off, as the questioner already points out. It is really, since these images have been shot with night vision, it is the intensity of frequency of the craft. We're looking for the translation. Almost, it could be said that what was captured there was a blinking in and out of your reality, in and out of your dimensional vibration. And this can be observed as, in multiple crafts, as a type of blinking, a type of flickering. It is more like you would observe your stars blinking when you are stargazing at night than it is as what you would see when you look at a plane flying over that is simply signaling I'm here and I'm now flying in this direction and you need to pay attention to me, and just following the rules of your aircraft. In that sense, your aircraft guidelines. So what was observed here was a very deliberate shifting in and out of vibrations, underlining their presence, really as an invitation for the one who eventually decided to shoot the footage, to get their attention.
Okay, so why the invitation?
Good question. Because we are making ourselves known. We are showing ourselves, our ships, more deliberately now. And more people on your planet are ready to be introduced to the idea of extraterrestrial presences visiting your planet in a peaceful manner, as we are.
That's comforting to know.
Oh, thank you. We think so.
Next question. Is it true that certain military classified programs have developed similar crafts, such as the one speculated about for many years, that goes by the name of TR-3B?
Yes, correct. There are such crafts, you could say that. We have been a source of inspiration to some others. And they have not necessarily chosen to be very transparent about that to the masses of your population, the majority of your population. But yes, so there are, in a sense, lookalikes, you could say.
Are you happy with that?
It is part of your evolution. It is a step in exploring contact from different perspectives. We do not have a opinion about it that leans towards negative or positive in that way. We are just observing that as such.
Okay. Next question.
All right.
What would be differences to look for to know whether we are looking for a real UFO or a military version? How can we tell?
All right. Well, there's two sides to this. One is the more internal communication that we have with you, with all of you, and that we primarily have with you. You could say that the seeing of the ship is a secondary experience. The first experience is the telepathic communication with us. The being, the sensing of the energy frequency, the presence. When you observe a ship, in a sense, you could almost say that, when it is ours, obviously, that you have allowed into your beingness a readiness for contact up to the degree where the physical crystallization of a ship can be perceived by you. So you could say that, in a sense, pun intended, some groundwork already has been done by you. Whether this has been done consciously or unconsciously really doesn't matter all that much. But by the time you see or witness or observe, in that sense, a ship, or have a sighting, as you may call it in your own language, by that time, there is an energy vibration in you that really is ready to have that encounter. No matter how surprised you may consciously or rationally think you are when you are having that experience eventually. Now, whilst you're having such an experience and now knowing that a large fundament was already present in you before that could even occur in that sense, before it could be physically perceived by you in that way, whilst you're having that sighting, no matter how short or long, however it takes place for you or took place for you, whoever's asking the question, a lot more is happening than just the optical idea of one person down there on the ground observing one ship up there in the sky. Like we said before, we travel through dimensions, and when you observe a ship in that way, you are partially traveling with us. You are having a multidimensional experience yourself in that moment, whether you're fully conscious of that or not. Some people fully feel that, have a tangible experience that translates in the body whilst they're having a sighting, as you call it, in that way. Others are not so sensory, you could say, interactive. They do not necessarily choose to use the body as a reflector of the interaction that is actually taking place. Realize, if you will, that we are very consciously aware when on board a craft whom, from where, is observing us, and realize, if you will, that we are observing you too. We sense somebody seeing us or perceiving us, and the second that happens, we communicate with them in some way or another. Very often, people who perceive a craft, who have a sighting in that way, are in communication with a future version of themselves, another simultaneous parallel incarnation that is oriented in the dimensional reality or race that is represented by or through that craft, even though the actual observing of a craft is not always necessary for that, to make contact with a future version of you. Very often that has, in that sense, already taken place, this type of interaction, and again, is part of the fundament. And also again, when we say future version, everything is here and now. We are speaking linearly so that the questioner can follow along. So, in this case, whilst people are having a sighting, a lot of communication is taking place right there and then already. There is real telepathic interaction, whether the observer is registering that consciously or not. That information is being received on some level of their being, though. And if they did not have a tangible experience whilst they were observing the craft, there is a pretty high probability that they will either see through synchronicities or within their dreams in the nights or days following after such a sighting that will make it clear to them that a interaction took place. That right there, no military craft can fake. You see? And this is why we put our emphasis on that above all else. We can, of course, come up with a list of physical features that we have and the lookalikes do not, and so forth. But this right here is one of the most profound, you could say, ways to measure, in a sense, for yourself, whether you have been having contact in that way or not with one of us. Did you follow along so far?
Yes, I did.
All right, thank you. So, when it comes to outer appearances, in most occasions, our ships, and now we are really focusing on our ships because we cannot necessarily cover for all UFOs or UAPs, whatever you choose to label them. Our ships are soundless, quiet. If somebody does hear some kind of a sound that seems to be related with the observing of the ship, there may be an inner sensing of a hum. It is not necessarily, though, that what they're hearing comes from the outside. Very often they will find that this humming idea, that frequency is being perceived for them from the inside. And that too is one of the physical reflections of being in a multidimensional experience, having a multidimensional experience in that way. As some people may be familiar with, having had out-of-body experiences, the body goes into a sort of vibrational state before you feel you can focus in that way, focus that wide, use your bandwidth in such a manner. The humming sensation that is heard by some may also translate as a very high-pitched tone, but we are sharing here now that that sound is not coming from the actual ship. It is perceived from the inside out. If it is perceived at all, for most of you it will simply appear dead silent. We can move any way we like. We can make very abrupt angles, stop mid-air and hover if we would choose to for months or even a year without needing any type of fuel. For us, there will not be any visible means of propulsion. Our ships are smooth. There are no tubes or wires sticking out from the outside. It is all very aerodynamic in that way. We can, like we said before, hop in and out of your dimensional reality, which means we can truly and completely disappear. We are aware of some vehicles that may originate from military projects that can, through optical illusion, appear to disappear, but are still there by using a form of camouflage. In that way, taking upon themselves the color of the sky. But would you shoot at them with a paint gun, you would see the color of the paint clearly. For us, when we choose to shift dimensions, we really are gone. We are no longer perceivable for any one of you. We, with our ships, we can appear dark, as in a black triangular shape. Edges are somewhat rounded, no sharp points outside or inside any of our ships or dwellings. Everything is smooth in that way, gentle, friendly. We would call it... We're looking for the translation. You have a word for this in your language. When a chair fits your body beautifully, how do you call it?
It suits you perfect.
Let's just keep it at that. Everything suits us naturally. It is smooth, it is rounded in that sense. No sharp edges anywhere. Our ships can appear like black triangles, like we said, with round edges. We can turn on and off, you could say, lights that appear to be located on either the corners, the center, or as a complete light. We can light up the entire ship. We can be as bright as a tiny sun in your skies also during the day. For that light also, we do not need any type of additional fuel. We use the energy that is basically just present in your universe. We understand how to use that in a natural way. When we shift sometimes from one dimension to another, there may be a short flash visible depending on the observer and depending on whether we wish to be obvious about making a quantum leap or wish to be more sneaky. We can also just fade out like a cloud in your skies. There are many ways wherein we can use our ships. We can move through objects, water, and things that appear solid to you. It is again because we can shift dimensions and we are just following coordinates in that way without feeling obstructed by the illusion of whatever may seem solid in your version of reality. We can play with that. This would be something that these would all be things that your military programs have not yet figured out for themselves. And so there you would have a handful of general guidelines with which you could perhaps be able to tell the difference to a little bit more specific degree. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Yes, it does. I've got a question regarding the contact that you are making. Do you have any tips for the ones of us who are doubtful if they ever felt such contact?
Well, of course, when we connect with you, we do so through your higher self. So it is only from your own inner knowing that you will get the real confirmation for now, until we make ourselves more physically known in that sense. But obviously there is a reason why for most of you, the majority of you, contact takes place through these intermediate steps where consciousness is a crucial factor in the way contact is being made. You have, in a sense, as a human race, signed up for a particular spiritual evolutionary journey. We are in deep respect for that journey. We understand we cannot interfere with that. We can sense from anyone we connect with, your species or any other, where they are in their ability to process a closer connection with us. It is specifically for that reason that when you do feel you are in doubt, when you choose to be in doubt, when you choose to be 100% certain that there is something you're not certain of, that's really what you're doing when you're doubting in that way, you are being sent back home. You send yourself back home. The only one that you can fall back onto is you. You can only go deeper inward to get more certainty in that sense. And that would be the ideal way. It is the only way to get more clarification. Now, always important in this is what would be your motivation for contact. Because if somebody feels they need to have it, because without it their world, their version of reality would simply not be complete, then there is often a level of insistency pressing upon the heartfelt desire. It is more than, in that case, a mind-thought desire rather than a heartfelt desire. It is something the mind thinks is necessary in order to be happy. The more of a lack-based belief system is present in the desire, the less clarity, the less... We're looking for translation. The less direct, perceivable responses from us to that individual will be allowed into their conscious awareness. Let's see if we can say that in a shorter sentence. One moment. The more insistency is present in a person's desire to have contact, the further, in a sense, they push away their own ability to perceive a clear response from us, because we have heard them. We have noticed their request and we have answered it. Doubt in that way will always send you back to yourself so that you can dive deeper and explore more from what type of motivational mechanism you are coming in your desire, and whether or not it is self-empowering you or not. If it is self-empowering you, if you feel that nothing is depending on it, if you know that in many ways perhaps you already are connected, which is very often the case for those who sense some type of affinity with the subject. When you rest into that inner knowingness, reflections of that connection can come to you and become much more tangibly, visually, audibly, if necessary, obvious to that person through synchronicity and their multidimensional experience of their version of reality in what you call dream time. More of that can be perceived by them more effortlessly.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
think so.
If you're ready, I would like to ask the next question.
All right.
This one is maybe a little bit silly, but why do these ships not have windows?
Oh, they do. You just don't see them. They do. We can look outside when we choose to. We can, in our case, and for many of the ships that most of you are witnessing now when you are having a sighting experience, if you feel there are no windows, then please understand that we, in most occasions, have a telepathic relationship to the ship, or relationship, quite literally in that sense. And we steer with our thoughts. We can choose what part of the ship becomes a window to us. We can choose what part of matter surrounding us becomes, in that idea, transparent, even in such a way that we see through it in one direction, but others cannot see in from the other direction.
Okay.
All right. Practical, isn't it?
Very practical.